Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's that time of the week where we get to take a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. Alright, the first knife you may have seen if you watched our video on pocket cleavers a couple of days ago, but it's the latest Knife Center exclusive to hit our shelves. Join the stable, you know what I'm talking about. CJRB Crag. And from the instant this knife was initially introduced, the standard version of the Crag, I thought this knife was crying out for some kind of really rugged looking handle material. So we had to spec out something awesome. We went with a burlap micarta, and it just looks fantastic, and it feels even better than the standard versions too, because we went ahead and had them contour the scales. So there's a bit of radius to them rather than them being just a flat slab like those standard versions. Helps it just fit in the hand a little bit better. Just feels nicer, you know. A bit more premium touch. And for that reason, there's a little bit goes into the materials and a little bit into the process. This is a little bit more expensive than the standard Crags, but this still is super cheap at 45 bucks. And you don't just get those cool handles for that. You get a lot on top of that as well. Cleaver style blade, of course, almost 3.5 inches long, D2 steel, stone washed finish. So it's a really rugged, hard working blade as well. Great for heavy cuts. And it's got pretty good slicing geometry too. It's not so thick that it's gonna get bound up in some of the heftier materials. It should go right through while having that strength. The burlap, of course, looks great. Being micarta, of course, it'll have a little bit of a more tacky feel when it does get wet, so the grip is even better. And we got just a little bit of a red pivot collar, a little bit of pop of color as an accent that I think looks great as well. And there on the back, deep carry pocket clip, which we've had stone washed to match the blade as well. And with all these details, they add up. The way we're saying it on our website, it's rugged enough to do just about anything, and it's gonna look good when it comes out the other side to boot. All right, next up is a new release actually dropping today. It's a new Italian-made knife from MKM. This is the Zeba Flame. And if you're familiar with Michael Zeba's MS3, we've certainly had a long history with that knife here at the Knife Center. This is a production version of the MS3 executed by MKM, and it turned out really good. There's actually a bunch of versions too. I think we've got 10 different variants going up on our site today, and this one is the most similar to that classic MS3 design. Prices on these start at $185, so of course significantly cheaper than the full custom Michael Zeba. But this is the one that most closely mimics that original. We've got titanium handles, titanium frame lock. It's got a nice contour to the handles here as well, so it's not gonna be too chunky or blocky. Drop point blade, M390 steel, under 3 inches. I know that's an important metric for some folks out there. And of course, milled pocket clip on the back and ball bearings in the pivot, so you've got really good snappy action as well. Now they have changed up a little bit from the custom version. If you look here at the back, there's no longer a back spacer here like the classic MS3. Instead, we've just got open back to construction. A little easier to keep clean. It's easy to blow out dust or pocket debris from there. But one of the things they kept the same, albeit a slightly different execution of it, is that all the hardware can be adjusted with a small flathead screwdriver rather than a Torx bit, so you don't need something specialized there. These are great gentleman's knives, great executive knives, and as they always have, when you fold it up, the blade is pretty much completely buried there. You see just a tiny little bit of it poking up right here, which is slightly different from the original, but basically all you've got sticking out is that flipper tab, nice and thin, pops open quite nicely. And in addition to that, we've got a few other variants. Like I said, 10, I've got 3 of them here. In addition to the standard, there's blacked out versions if you like. There's also some micarta versions. I've got a green canvas micarta here on the front side, still titanium frame lock on the back. And that also has that drop point blade. The reason I call out that drop point blade, there's actually, they've added a new blade shape that wasn't on the original MS3, and that is a dagger profile blade. Single edge dagger, it's not double edged. But they thought it looked really great on this type of profile, and I have to agree. Now, it's still the same overall size. You've just got that slightly different blade shape and a second flipper tab, even though it's not a flipper tab, to kind of give you that Quillian look or that classic dagger look. Obviously, this is not going to do anything, and it'd be pretty hard actually to get this to, if you're thinking you might be able to quote-unquote wave this open or pocket deploy it. I haven't tried it, but I think it's going to be not very easy to grab onto the hem of your pocket if you're looking to do that. But the flipper works really well, and this one has a red lava carbon fiber, which is a really cool looking material. I haven't seen anything quite like this yet, at least not widespread on some production knives. If you prefer more less color on your carbon fiber, you can get the drop point blade with a marbled carbon fiber as well, but we'll make sure to leave links below where you can check out all the new variants we've got. More exciting news, Buck has actually gone and upgraded their Pursuit line of fixed blades and folders. This one is another one where we've got a bunch of variations. There's two different sizes of fixed blades, with or without a gut hook. Same thing on the folder, two different sizes and a gut hook option. But it's not just a color upgrade. The originals, of course, were green. They've done a blade steel upgrade here as well. We've got S35VN, which is a significant upgrade over the 420HC on the base models. These are still made in the USA, and they're not terribly unaffordable, even though you do get premium materials and that American construction. This particular one is the large Pursuit Pro, and it comes in at about $115 right now, so not bad at all. Obviously, these are going to make great hunting knives with this type of profile, and of course that Buck pedigree. You've got a hollow grind on the blade, a little bit of a recurve, so you're going to get a little bit more edge, especially on the pull cut if you're slicing through some meat or something like that. Feels really solid in the hand too. Of course, it's full tang. You can see some of the bits exposed right there with a little bit of jimping. And the orange bits do have a little bit of rubber grip, so I think this would make a good water knife too, if you're not concerned about losing the knife, depending on what you're doing with it. You're definitely going to have a good amount of grip there. Good fishing knife too, even though it's not a fillet knife, it'd be one that might be nice on your waders as you're going out there. They've kept it simple with the sheath. We've got a nylon sheath with a snap loop here and just a simple belt loop right there. Now something like some leather I thought might have been nice, but considering if you're going to be using this knife while hunting or while out on the water doing some fishing, it's probably good to not have something like leather there, so you're not going to have to worry about water damaging it so much. As for the folders, this is the smaller size. It has a blade that's just a hair over 3 inches, and the larger ones come in at about 3.6 or thereabouts, 3.5, 3.6, and you can get a gut hook or a standard version on that bigger size as well. Nice little size here, I think. Still, you've got those rubberized inserts, S35VN steel, nice lock back there. It's a good little size, I think, but no pocket clip here. They actually give you a sheath on this one as well. That sheath is also made out of nylon, and it has got a strap closure right there. One nice little touch, you can actually, you've actually got two orientations. You can carry it on the back. You can either thread your belt loop through here, carry it in typical vertical fashion, or you can carry it horizontal with these two straps here. You're not going to be able to fit a super wide belt through there, at least on this small one. The opening here is about 1¼ inch at the smallest point, so that's going to be about the max thickness of belt you'll be able to use that with. It's good to have those options. Speaking of upgrades, we've actually got a few new Civivi Elementum models as well. Really, really popular knife, and you can now get it with the same great D2 blade steel, now with a canvas micarta handle. And we've got two colors right now as well, a dark green and an olive green micarta, so kind of two different shades of green that you can get, but everything else is still that same great Elementum design. 3-inch blade, nice steel, kind of the distillation of everything you need in a modern pocket knife at a really good price. Flips open quite nicely because you've got ceramic bearings in the pivot, deep carry pocket clip, single-sided only on these models, and nice open-backed construction. Nice lightweight, capable EDC blade, and still very affordable. Only about, there's $52.50 right now, so it's only like $1.50 more than the G10 versions, which is a pretty nominal upgrade fee to get that micarta, which is pretty nice to see they didn't jack it up too much. We've also got a fancier version with a Gaborsha wood handle, and obviously each one's going to be a little bit different since it is a natural material, but I love the patterning, the nice figuring on this piece of wood. Both sides of this actually look pretty fantastic. Again, same great Elementum design, just blacked out in this case. You've got black liners and pocket clip, as well as that black blade. Now this is a black stonewash, but it is a very subtle stonewashing texture. It's not like Kershaw's black wash where you get a ton of variation. It's a little bit more on the subtle side. But what's nice about that, in that it's a sort of patinaed finish, rather than an actual blade coating, it's not really going to affect the edge geometry or the slicing geometry much at all. All right, this next knife kind of has a similar vibe to that Civivi, but it's a much more premium knife. This is a new option from Kaiser. This is a Nick Swan design. This is called the Matanzas, coming in about $176 right now. Obviously, the biggest difference between this and that Civivi is going to be materials and a little bit fit and finish as well. We've got S35VN for the blade steel, so obviously much better edge retention. And we've actually got a gray coating on this blade, just to kind of tone down the reflections a little bit and make it kind of give it a little bit of a different vibe from a typical satin or polished blade. But really nice edge profile overall, really thin edge. Of course, those Civivis have a nice thin edge as well. Now, if you'd rather not have that gray coating on the blade, there is another version with a stone-washed finish, but the blade shape is a little bit different on that one. It has a more aggressive recurve. Now, they're actually calling it a recurve tanto blade, but it really, it basically maintains the same tip with just a little bit more recurve. And then moving back to the handles, we've got some nicely executed pieces of titanium with a natural canvas micarta inlay on the front, running pretty much across the whole front, in fact. And it's nice and flush, but you still get a bit of that matte texture from the micarta. So you got a little bit of a nicer feel in hand, or a little bit of a warmer feel than you would get with just a straight titanium knife. Another interesting little touch here is the pocket clip. It's not a typical folded, it is a folded clip, but not a typical folded clip. It's actually elevated from the handle by these spacers here, which is something you usually see more on custom knives than production knives. So that's always a nice little touch. And of course, the flipping action is quite nice too, because you've got ball bearings there in the pivot, as you would expect, this being a titanium frame lock flipper after all. All right, next up is a more affordable Kaiser knife. This is part of their Vanguard line. This one comes in at 69 bucks. This is the Justice flipper. And there's two versions. This version is a little bit more EDC friendly in terms of its coloration, but there's also a black bladed, partially serrated version as well for the more tactical oriented uses. And really this is kind of an affordable tactical / duty knife design that is going to transition well to your EDC stuff. Blade is a bit longer, about 3 3/4 almost, with N690 stainless steel, so really good materials despite the lower price. Handles are G10 with that liner lock there. And this being a tactical type of design, we've actually got a glass breaker there on the back, which is pretty good. There's not a ton of knives out there with glass breakers to begin with, and a lot of the good duty quality knives tend to be a little bit more expensive. So this is another, it's a good addition to the market, I think. Now, one of the nice things about this knife is the action is really good. So good you're gonna think it actually has bearings in it, but it actually doesn't. This is actually a simple washer design, which is good. Again, considering the intended mission of the knife, bearings can have the weakness of being able to get gummed up by dirt and sand and grime and that sort of thing a bit more easily than just a simpler washer. There's fewer nooks and crannies for stuff to get caught up in. So the fact they were able to do that on this knife and have the action as good as it is really well, really nicely done. Of course, you got that flipper to open it, or those thumb studs if you wish. Just a solid all-around design that's going to work well beyond those tactical rolls. Good everyday carry, decent outdoors knife too, even though you don't have a ton of thickness there. It's just going to cover a whole lot of bases for not a lot of money. All right, next up we've got a new Ostap Hell design from Bestech, a new fixed blade in fact from them. This is called the Hedron, and these come in just under 100 bucks. Now there's also a few different versions of this. All the other versions we have come with a stone-washed blade, but this particular one has a black stone-wash and orange G10 handles. But those stone-washed options have some other G10 color options if you don't want something quite so vibrant as this orange is. Now what's nice about this blade is it offers a lot in a very compact footprint. Not just in the blade length, which is just under 4 inches, but pretty thin handle scales for an ostensibly outdoors knife too. But it's going to work well in those outdoor scenarios. This would be, especially with the orange, a great hunting knife, but a great camp knife overall that's not going to load down your belt with too much extra gear. And then especially if you have smaller hands, obviously my hands are a little bit bigger than average, but your smaller hands especially are going to have a nice grip on this Hedron design. But those same thinner scales are also going to make it transition well to EDC uses or other just utility uses. So kind of like that Kaiser, it has a lot of kind of crossover appeal because those handles are very nimble in the hand. You're going to be able to manipulate them very easily. It's even got a nice hidden lanyard point here at the back, so you could accessorize that, maybe add a bead or a lanyard to help you pull it out if you want, or if you have really big bare paws of hands, it could always give you a little bit of extra handle length. But I've got a pretty good amount of length here just as it is. But back to that blade a second. Really good all-around profile, as long as you're okay with this amount of belly. Great hunting knife, great slicer, food prep, and just kind of utility stuff. Nice high flat grind and thin enough blade stock. I'm looking at it here, we're probably about 3/32 of an inch thick, so not super beefy, just a really great slicer. Now as for the sheath, you've got a nice Kydex piece with its own belt carrier here, which is produced very well. And you can move that around a little bit too. You could carry it horizontal or vertical. But the hole spacings on here, up at the leading or the handle side of them here, is spaced so that you can fit both large and small tech locks if you want a little bit more modularity with your system. And we'll make sure to leave links to our tech lock selection as well. All right, next up we've got a new slip joint from Fox, another Italian-made knife. And this one I find pretty interesting. It's decently affordable, 64 bucks. So the materials aren't super exotic, but we do have some more burlap micarta to take a look at here. A few different colors of it, in fact. This particular one, of course, being a turquoise green. Now, as I mentioned when I was talking about that Crag from earlier, burlap always says to me it's a really rugged, hard-working knife. And that's true of this knife too, because for a slip joint, it's actually got a pretty beefy handle. Not just the handle, actually, too. The blade and the back spring itself are pretty substantial. And because of that, you really can get a nice solid grip on this knife. If you need a non-locking knife in your day-to-day, but you still want something that's very capable, definitely got a lot going on here. I really feel like you could put a decent bit of muscle into a cut. Blade itself is about 3.3 inches long. It's 420 stainless with a good stonewashed finish going on there. And that's really in keeping with its rugged nature, with its kind of overbuilt nature. That finish is, and in addition to that, so is the blade shape with this kind of modified sheep's foot profile. Just a good heavy utility blade. Now there's no pocket clip on this knife. In addition to that, there's no sheath either. You just have this simple leather fob here, or leather lanyard here. But maybe check out the MKM magnetic sheaths that MKM makes, hence MKM magnetic sheath. That might fit this pretty well, actually, if you want something a little bit different to carry it in your pocket. All right, next up, another kind of heavy-duty folder from Fox. This is the Mojo, and it certainly is a design with a lot of it, and this is actually a Jens Anso design. This one comes in at just under $150 right now. The blade here is almost 3.5 inches long with N690 steel and a really distinctive kind of bullnose shape with a bit of a recurve there. I think really inspired by some more of the hunting designs out there. Reminds me of some of the old Puma German-made hunting knives in a way. But it's certainly going to be a decent EDC as well. You've got a flat grind here as opposed to a hollow, so it gives it a little bit more rigidity or strength. And the handles back up that strength as well. We've got green micarta, nice and thick, as you can see, with a really nicely shaped contour to it that really does feel fantastic in the hand. Now, as most of you know, most folders aren't ever really champs in the ergonomics, or in the, not necessarily ergonomics, but in the comfort department. This is one of those that certainly bucks the trend. I will say, however, my hands may be just a little bit too big for this particular shape. If you got really big hands, this is going to definitely be a little too small for you. But if you have a more average sized hand, this is definitely one of the most comfortable folders on the market right now. Now, in terms of the back end of the knife, or the spine side of the handle, I should say, it's kind of a little bit in between two worlds. We do have a lock back here, but then here at the back, you've got an open-backed barrel spacer type of construction. So that's kind of interesting. You don't see that too often. You may also notice when I hold the knife this way, no pocket clip here either, but they do give you a pocket sheath to carry this, or not a pocket sheath, sorry, a belt sheath for this knife. The sheath also is kind of a hybrid between a few different schools of thought, so to speak. You do have some nice black leather, but also some elastic bits here on the side that do give it a little bit of stretch to fit that, or even some other knives if you wanted to press it into service elsewhere. They've also made it nice and easy to get on and off the belt, because you do have a snap strap here, so you can thread that through without having to take your entire belt off. It's certainly a cool knife. It's a little bit out there, but I really like it. But if you want an Italian knife that's even more out there, I got something for you now. New Mazin Ghost Flipper. These come in at about $177 right now. And there's a bigger fixed blade version called the Badger that comes in at about $187. But you can certainly say that this definitely has a distinctive look, shall we say. Definitely not the best, I would say, for everyday utility. This design is all about CQC, close quarters combat, and that sort of thing. Designed with some martial artists, I believe, in collaboration on this design. Blade here is N690 with this upswept trailing point profile. But you do have a little bit of a treatment to the spine here. Kind of looks like some of the old MACV SOG buoys. Spice it up a little bit, why not? Nice stonewash finish on there, combo edge, flipper tab. And it's kind of interesting, actually, when you fold it up, it doesn't look as crazy as you think it's going, or when you open it, it looks a lot crazier than you would think, just based on the closed up profile. But it does flip open pretty well into that nice out there shape. And I gotta believe it definitely works for that sort of thing, but I don't really have any tactical training myself, so I'm just gonna have to trust the experts on this one. But what I will say is the handles here feel fantastic. Again, you've got a nice bit of thickness here. We've got a two-tone G10. There's a couple different colors you can pick from as well. And it fills the hand very well. Nice integrated thumb wrap here on the back, provides a good place to anchor if you're holding it in this direction. And of course, there's probably some reverse grip holds that are gonna come into play here. And in fact, when you hold it that way, you can also see the glass breaker or kind of crusher pommel here, which is integrated into the back spacer. But I don't know if we've got any martial arts experts out there. Let me know what you think of this design in terms of its effectiveness, but in terms of its build quality, it's definitely very good. All right, last but not least, I've got a couple more Kizlyar fixed blade designs. I know I promised you guys that last week. This first one is called the URAL, like the URAL Mountains. Actually, you can see a graphic there on the back. And this comes in at about 143 right now. Blade length, about 4.6, or a little bit over that, in fact, with a Sleipner steel blade with a nice full convex geometry. No secondary edge on this, so it's similar to like the Bark Rivers or the Felleknevens out there. So this could be seen sort of as a budget alternative to a Bark River. I say budget, you know, 143 is not super cheap, but it is cheaper. It's cheaper than what a comparable Bark River would be. And of course, the full tang Felleknevens that they make nowadays are considerably more expensive. For the handles, we've got red and black G10, and they've done the shape on these very well. It does a good job of filling my hand, but you do have a little bit of kind of a diamond checkering here. Gives you a little bit of extra grip there. Really nicely executed. Kind of another hybrid in-between design, and they did it quite well. Little bit of a finger guard here. It's not so big that it's going to get in the way, but there is a little bit there to protect you from moving forward. This would be a good outdoor camping, survival bushcraft knife design, and the sheath backs that up with its intentions. You've got a fire steel loop here on the side. This is leather, as you can see. Does have what I thought, or my initial reaction is it's a dangler loop, but it actually isn't. That loop actually holds the snap retention strap here above. So normally I say you could always remove a dangler if you don't like it, but I wouldn't in this case since it forms an integral part of the retention on this knife. All right, one more Kizlyar, and this is more of a tactical design. This is the Severus. This one's a little bit less expensive, comes in about 112. Orange G10 handles with a really heavy traction there, a really heavy scalloping or mountain tread finish. And D2 blade steel, I don't know if I mentioned that yet, 4 3/4 of an inch, and this is double edged. It's not a dagger profile, but this whole swedge section on the back edge of the blade does feature a sharpened edge. It's not as acute of a sharpened edge as the primary cutting edge, but it definitely is capable of cutting. We've also got what they're calling a tack wash finish on here. It's kind of a gray patina with then a stonewash applied to it. Looks really good. It's going to stand up quite well. Now, as far as comfort in the hand, this is not as comfortable as that URAL, but again, I don't think that was the point on this particular knife. They were going for ultimate retention in the hand, especially for something that might be a duty blade. Especially if you're wearing gloves, it would improve the comfort, but you'd still have the retention you need here. Sheath on this one is also leather, but kind of a different style than the bushcrafty outdoor type on the URAL. In fact, it doesn't hold the handle in at all, or the handle doesn't go underneath the leather at all. You've simply got a leather loop there to keep the guards from pulling past that bit. But ultimately, I think the thing that all of these Kisljar Supreme fixed blades provide, they're pretty good value. They're not the most affordable in the world, but for the money you're paying, you're going to be getting a lot for what you do put down. All right, that's all we've got to look at this week. Make sure to let me know in the comments which of the knives that you liked the best here. And if you want to get your hands on any of them, we will leave links in the description that take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And make sure while you're over there, if you're going to buy one of these knives, do sign up for our Knife Rewards program, because you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next knife in the process. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.